Knows what's happening on the scene. He's just in from California to shake up things around New York, which he usually manages to do. The king of the Frug, the Watusi, the jerk. Here is Mr. Phil Spector.
Phil Harvey Spector was a record producer, he was a musician, he was a writer. He was basically the mastermind behind a lot of the records recorded in the 60s, classic rock. He was born in New York, in the Bronx, in December 26, 1939. And by the age of 21, he was already a very successful man. He was a pioneer in what was the girl group sound, recording the Crystals, Ronettes, E.K. Turner and Tina Turner.
When I was a little girl, I had a rag doll, only doll I've ever owned.
In 1961, Phil and Lester Steele decided to create their own record company. It was called Phillies Records. It was named after both Phil and Lester. And Phillies Records were the ones responsible for recording and producing the Crystals. It was a girl group that ended up hitting number 20 on the chart with their songs. Spector's final signing to Phillies Records was married duo E.K. and Tina Turner, which was one of his favorite productions, but unfortunately only got to number 88 on the charts. And after that he did a solo album for Tina Turner, and that album only hit number 3 in the Britain charts, and that kind of threw him off a little bit of the wagon, and he decided to stop recording for a while. In 1969, Spector made a comeback when he recorded the Ronettes' You Came, You Saw, You Conquered single, which was pretty successful, but not nearly as successful as Sonny Charles and the Checkmates' Black Pearl, which hit number 3. And it was then when Alan Klein, who was the manager of the Beatles at the time, brought Spector back to England with them, and he introduced him to Lennon and the guys. Another thing, he was the creator of the famous Wall of Sound, which was basically this small studio full of musicians and the whole band, and they were all like secluded by different walls. They improvised and created right there in the studio, so like the singers were like separated by this wall. Basically it was a wall, but the sound, it came out exactly how Phil Spector had it in his mind. He really knew what he was doing when it came down to the studio, and he seemed to be a really control freak, and people say that he used to carry a gun in the studio. He was that type of guy, and he would like pull out his gun and get like really cranky and stuff, but others say those were just myths. Like guys from the Ramones also recorded with him.
In a famous rock and roll moment, the late Dee Dee Ramone claimed Phil held a gun up to his head in the studio. Some say it never happened.
He never pulled a gun out on Dee Dee. Dee Dee had a childlike, vivid imagination.
Legendary record producer Phil Spector was arrested after police found a woman is free on $1 million bond.